Guess what, y'all? Queen Anne Stuart might have been a lesbian. Okay? I was like, what? She might have been, I'm sorry, she might have been bisexual. They called her a lesbian, but she was clearly having sex with her husband, so she wasn't strictly womanly. Okay? I was in shock. Queen Anne Stuart is going to be today's famous Aquarius. So if you want to know more about this situation and why it's so controversial and why this queen has so much scandal going on, stick around. I am Queen Osset Haru. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. I mean that. I really want you to stick around. I want you to watch my channel. I want you to love my show and be a part of our community. Likewise, if you like the video, always give it a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know that I'm doing my job. Likewise, please drop us a positive comment in the comment section and pass this video on to anybody who might enjoy it. Also, if you could stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to read out 2 of my favorite comments from previous videos and respond to them. And if you would like to get a reading done, please email me. If you would like to hit me up on social media, check out underneath this video, because my email, my social media, my PayPal, my Patreon, everything you need is underneath this video. Now, let's get to my girl, Queen Anne Stuart. So, last time we talked about Queen Mary. Queen Anne comes along about 200 years later. Okay, so she's from the line of Stuart, and Queen Mary was from the line of Tudor. So they're related, but distantly. Okay, so basically they told us that Anne is definitely an Aquarius. She was born at 11:39 p.m. on February the 6th of 1665. She was born at St. James Palace in London, and she died on August 1st, 1714. She was the 4th child and 2nd daughter of the Duke of York. Afterwards, he became the king. And his first wife, Anne Hyde. Anne and her sister, Mary, were the only ones to survive into adulthood. So they had many other kids, but they're the only 2 that survived. Back then, if you survived to adulthood, it was a miracle. It's a miracle our species is even still here. Okay, so then it says Anne was married to Prince George of Denmark. I didn't really see a lot about her husband. It seems like she was really the ruler and he was kind of just like, you know, there. Because I didn't see a lot about him, but, you know, she was definitely married to this gentleman. And according to what I understand, it seems like they had a very active sex life. You're getting ready to see why I said that in a second. Anne was the last monarch from the line of Stuart. She ruled from 1701 to 1714, and she was remembered as a good and active queen. Now, where does all of the scandal come in? Because she's Aquarius, so there's got to be a scandal somewhere in here, right? Well, first of all, Anne was sickly. From the time she was very, very little, she had some kind of eye situation. I couldn't figure out a name for it. They just said her eye used to water. So she had some kind of problem with her, must have been her tear ducts or something. She later on in life had bad gout, which made it very difficult for her. They said it, basically she ended up not even being able to really walk. They had to carry her around the castle or roll her around the castle. So the gout really got bad as she got older. Anne was pregnant at least 16 times. 16 difficult pregnancies. And this is why I said her and her husband must have had a very active sex life, because you don't get pregnant 16 times by accident, okay? Also, out of those 16 pregnancies, all of her children died. So by the time, I think one of them lived to be 11 years old. So according to what they said, she had 16 difficult pregnancies. Most of her children were miscarriages or stillborn. and the one that lived to 11, ended up dying too. So that had to have been devastating for this family. I remember in one documentary, they said how her and her husband would sit and hold hands and grieve their children. So it seems like the relationship between the two of them was a loving one. And it's just that, back then it was important to have an heir to the throne. Now remember, they said she was the last from the line of Stuart because she couldn't produce an heir. So if she had produced a son or even a daughter, the line would have continued. But since she didn't, I think it was one of her cousins that became the successor. So that was how that went. Now, the lesbian scandal. So Queen Anne is busy being rich, rich and opulent, and she takes the throne. She becomes queen. So when she becomes queen, she ends up with a very close friend. This woman is like a duchess or something. Her name was Sarah Churchill. She's related to Winston Churchill. I think she's one of his ancestors. So basically, Sarah Churchill, this duchess, became very close to the queen. She worked for her. She held several different jobs in her court. They would talk constantly, and the queen would write her letters. Back then, they would write each other letters more so than we do now anyway, but they would write each other letters all the time. So basically what ended up happening was Sarah Churchill accused the queen of being bisexual. She said that, and she had these letters from her, and I saw a couple of the letters in the documentary, and they were very romantic. She was like, the queen wrote to her, and we don't know what Sarah said back. So I always thought that was kind of suspicious because Sarah burned the letters. No. Queen Anne burned the letters that Sarah wrote her. Because back then you would burn stuff that was private. You didn't want anybody to get their hands on it. But Sarah kept every letter the queen wrote her. And then when the queen started to have different political ideas than Sarah, because they were backing two different groups, that's when Sarah started to basically blackmail the queen, and started the rumor that the queen was a lesbian. And then we get to see these letters, and the letters are very romantic. She says to her, "I can't wait to have you in my arms. You don't know how I ache for you." What? Now she's having sex with her husband because she's pregnant 16 times. So we see these letters written in the hand and the seal of the queen. So she really did write them. So a lot of historians are telling us that, that's just how they were back then. That's just how people talk. But when I look at other letters during that time period, they are very poetic. They are very loving. They are even intimate sometimes. But these were like letters written between two lovers. I can't wait to have you in my embrace. It aches to not be around you. For real? Wasn't she just there yesterday and you already aching? So this does make us wonder. But also, they were backing two different political groups. So Anne could have been just trying to throw, mud at the queen, because mudslinging was going on, since the beginning of time. And during the time that this was going on, apparently not only did she have these letters that she was, showing to other people and gossiping and whispering and things like that, but she also, the queen, had hired a new chambermaid. And the chambermaid's name was Abigail. And Abigail and the queen were said to be extremely close. So Sarah, who was falling out of favor, thought that Abigail was her replacement. So she started to put out these, things about the queen. The queen ended up kicking her to the curb, basically. And at one point in time, we see here that Abigail, and this is really interesting, Abigail had a poet write a poem about the Queen's relationship. Sarah had a poet write a poem because Abigail never blackmailed her, according to history. It was Sarah that was doing all the blackmailing. So she went to some poet and said, "Hey, can you write a poem about the Queen's behavior, her intimate behaviors?" And this person wrote the poem, and she passed this around, to the people who were of court. Now, personally, I would have been scared if I was her, because kings and queens could have you killed, beheaded, all kinds of stuff. But I guess because she was a duchess, she felt as though she was too high up there. But we're getting ready to see that wasn't the case. So the poem that was written, we don't have the whole thing, but this is the part of it that I found online, and I was like, wow. It goes, her secretary she was not, because she could not write, but had the conduct and the care of some dark deeds at night. Okay, so this is basically a rap battle. This is an ancient rap battle. Okay, so you think that beefing and all that stuff is new, writing diss tracks is new? All the way back in time, even before this time, things like this was going on. So it is nothing new. When you listen to the next diss track, remember that somebody wrote one about our girl, our Aquarius, Queen Anne. So, of course, this brought into question, was she sleeping with Abigail? Or was Abigail just her chambermaid? During that time period, if somebody was, gay, definitely would not have been something they would have told other people. So if she was bi, she wouldn't have told other people. But also, Sarah had an ulterior motive. So Sarah could have just put this out there to just, sling mud at her, because at that point they were rivals. So what did the Queen do about Miss Churchill? Well, Miss Churchill was exiled. Okay? That little diss track got her and her husband put out of the kingdom. They were basically exiled and accused of embezzlement. So lucky she didn't cut her head off, because a lot of them would have cut her head off. But I guess she really did love her. So that's why when I read this and I saw several documentaries on it, and there's even a movie out about it, but the movie is historical fiction, so I didn't bother to watch it. I just wanted facts. So when I look at this, I'm like, was she really a lesbian? Because it kind of looked like maybe, but then at the same time, it looked like Sarah was just trying to put salt in the game. But what makes me really lean towards maybe she was, is she had her exiled. If you have a political rival that's putting out lies about you, in this time period, you have them poisoned. You have their heads chopped off, especially when they got accused of embezzlement. But instead of doing that, she just got exiled. So that's what makes me say, and I don't know. And as a woman who was outed, I was outed by other women before I came out. There was a woman that I had relations with when I was in my experimental lesbianism phases. And she, when we stopped being friends, told other people. So it was a smear campaign, but it was true. So I don't know in this case with Queen Anne. Is it just a smear campaign, or is it a smear campaign and it's true, or is there no truth to it? History really doesn't know. The historians who write about it, it just depends on who you ask. Some of them think there's nothing to it, and some of them think there's everything to it. But like I said before, another thing that makes me wonder is that she's Aquarius. Now, every Aquarius is not in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, intersex community. But a lot of us are. A lot of us are in the community. So when a woman tells me that she's a lesbian and she's Aquarius, or she's bi and she's Aquarius, or if a man says that to me, it doesn't shock me at all. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just like, oh, okay, it doesn't shock me at all. So you are going to have to decide for yourself based on what I told you, and if you choose to do more research about Queen Anne Stuart, if you think that she was gay or not. I think it was very possible, but I just don't know for sure. And I don't have enough evidence really to make a solid conclusion. And that's why I think that it's such a mystery, because people throughout history have lied. It's very common. I think I told you guys before, up to 90% of people who identify as being gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, da 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 da. 90% of us, up to 90% of us, have been in the closet at one time. So that means at one time we were either pretending to be straight or lying or covering up or just not dating anyone. We were doing some form of omission or, or deception at some time. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. So I don't know about Queen Anne, but I do know that she was pregnant 16 times. I do know it sounded like she really did love this Sarah person. And I do know that based on what they said about her and Abigail, that they were like that. And Queen Anne did not talk to these women like she was their superior. She actually talked to them like they were girlfriends. So that was unheard of during that time. You didn't talk to your chambermaids and your ladies in waiting like they were your equal. They said they had little pet names for each other, the Queen and Sarah. They had little pet names for each other. And that was unheard of for a queen and her servant to have, even though she was a duchess, she was still in service to her. And it was unheard of during that time for you to do something like that. So it's a lot of evidence that something more may have been going on. But I guess until I pass over and meet Anne, I'll never know for sure. All right, guys, please. Oh, let me tell you. Hold up. I almost forgot. I almost forgot to scroll down and tell you the positive comments before I go. Number 1 is from Catherine Lands. Hi, Catherine. Catherine said, my Aquarius man only talks to me about important things while we're having sex. Laugh out loud. It's so weird. Catherine, that is weird, because when I'm having sex, I'm busy. I'm busy. I ain't got time for no conversations, And the things I do talk about are like pillow talk, or like kinky talk, that kind of thing. I can't imagine rolling over and being like, our 401k needs to be updated, or, I can't imagine that. So I can see talking about, if you mean important things like feelings, I can see that during sex. Sex does bring out feelings, so I can see that. Elise K. Hey, Elise. Elise is in Ravenclaw. What's up? Ravenclaw house. She said, love the topic and your channel. My 2 favorite characters are also Snape and Luna. I think that J.K. Rowling had knowledge of the occult and astrology when she wrote the books. The Harry Potter universe is no way random. So much hidden knowledge in the story. The word occult simply means hidden. You're 100% correct. It does mean hidden. That's true. And I do think she had knowledge, at least of astrology, because the characters, the ones I have looked at, all of them acted like their zodiac sign, except for one. I only found one that I thought was off, but all the other ones to me fit to a T. So I agree with you. Also, when it comes to other things about the occult, you see all kinds of occult things, potions, crystal balls, magic wands. She has a lot of stuff in there that pagans really do use to this day. So I do think that she has some knowledge of it. Probably read some books. I mean, you can go into any store and get a book by Scott Cunningham or Silver Raven Wolf or any of those books written, what's her name? Judica Isles. They all have books on spells and things like that. Any layman can get this stuff. So she probably did have a knowledge. I can't believe she wrote those characters so close to their zodiac signs and didn't know anything about it. She'd have to be like a psychic genius to do that. Like, seriously. All right, guys, please come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.